but to the greatest of all time. Thank you.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want. I turn a business out of nothing into something I love. I got a poker face, but honestly, I'm not one to bluff. I flip a switch, never miss, man, I always stay up. Don't let them see you, always have a plan to stay tough. This life ahead of you ain't easy, it was built to be rough. But that's what makes a personality, is tragedy, bruh. So keep your head on your shoulders. Now we ain't out here moving rocks, we out here moving boulders. Now we ain't getting posterized, we out here making posters. And we ain't got nothing to hide, we move forward like soldiers. You better wake up for the pay stub, or you'll pay up. Don't make love to the game, bruh, fuck the game up. Change up, rearrange stuff to your greatness. Famous for the way up, play the game, bruh.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top, yeah.
You know I'm always honest, there ain't no way I'll never stop it.
I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till I'm on top,
I'm always flirting with pain, she like to hurt me and maim. I'm always working to change, but she's still lurking the same. I keep on building a dynasty while the haters be trying me, but they hate from inside.
All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Unscripted Live here on the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network. I'm going to be your host and producer this evening, Logan Landers, and join me as always to break down and preview some NFL game coverage. As always, Jay McLaughlin. What's going on, Jay?
I'm doing well, man. We have a good slate of games to talk about today, Logan.
You are not kidding. And, of course, our resident stat guy, Dustin Reese. How you doing this afternoon, my friend?
Good, just watching a little bit of high school football state championships right now.
All right, hey, not bad, not a bad way at all to spend your what is it, your Thursday afternoon. I wish it was Friday, almost there. Also, hey, if you enjoyed the episode here this evening, give us a like, a share, subscribe, follow on all of our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and also on Twitch. All under our brand new banners now. At typically it's going to be ESEN Network. Or if the other ones are going to be ESEN Network 2023. So you go find that over there. But the easiest way to find all that, though, is in our link tree. Link is in the bio. You can find all of our links there. And also a big shout out to our friends at Northeast Streaming Sports for allowing us to stream this show each and every single week on their Roku channel. Go check them out. They have some great programs over there. Well, guys, as you know, 5 games on the slate. Let's get right into it. Starting things off with the Raiders and the Dolphins. Dustin, I'll let you start things off with this one, my friend. Who is taking the win in this one?
Well, it's amazing what a new coach can do to a team, as the Raiders have gone 2-0 since they appointed Antonio Pierce as their head coach and are kind of getting back to that brand of football that they like to play, where it's pretty much pound the ball to Josh Jacobs as much as you can pound it to him, and then you kind of let that set up the pass. The last time the Raiders went through an in-season coaching change is when they got rid of John Gruden and gave that title to Rick Bisaccia, and all Bisaccia did was get the Raiders into the playoffs, and I think a lot of fans and a lot of people expected Bisaccia to remain the Raiders coach, and I think if the Raiders had a chance to do it over, I think they do give him the head coaching job over Josh McDaniels, because once again, Josh McDaniels proved he has no business being a head coach in this league. And I wonder if the Raiders continue to play well with Pierce, if Pierce will be in the same situation where they're going to offer him the job as opposed to looking elsewhere. But this is a different task for the Raiders this week. This is a task against the Miami Dolphins, who have arguably the best offense in the NFL. They by far have the fastest offense in the NFL with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Raheem Mostert, and then Devin Etienne, who's still injured. I think he comes back in a couple of weeks. But you have those 4 guys on the field at the same time. There's not too many teams that have that kind of speed that are going to keep up with the Dolphins. I don't like the Raiders in this one at all. I think Miami has a chance to run away with this one, especially getting that extra week off from the Germany game against the Chiefs. I think the Dolphins will kind of run away with this. I'm going to go 42-14.
That breaks my heart there, Dustin, as a Raiders fan. But real quick, Jay, just before you get into yours, I agree with you wholeheartedly about the Raiders. They had a do-over. They would not get rid of Rich. They would have kept him because, like you said, he helped lead them into the playoffs, his coaching. And, I mean, we're I'm not saying it's going to be similar results, but we're seeing just, as you mentioned, how much the energy, how much the locker room vibes, and of course the on the field product can change once you're willing to get behind your coach and you believe what he says, and that's kind of what we're seeing here. But Jay, we'll flip it over to you. Who do you think is going to win this one? Will the Raiders pull off the upset, or will the Dolphins get back on track, keep it rolling out there in the AFC East?
Yeah, this is an interesting game to me. Obviously, as you know, the AFC East is an 8-game losing streak right now, and the Dolphins should be the first team to actually break that losing streak against this Raiders team. But keep in mind, and as well as the Dolphins are still trying to hold off the Buffalo Bills, who also are struggling as well, obviously. Vegas is the number 2 team in their division, Logan. They're at 5-5. Believe it or not, they're still number 2. But the Broncos, as you know, are on the rise at 4-5. So, yeah, it's going to take a lot of Josh Jacobs to keep them in this game because, Garoppolo's 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions sure as hell ain't going to do it for him. So they're going to have to keep this on the ground as much as possible. Let Jimmy do a little bit of game management, give a couple possession passes here and there. But ultimately, this is going to come down to Josh Jacobs. Tua, he's still playing well at 19-7. Mostert has got 605 yards and 11 touchdowns. So, again, Tua needs to air it out to Tyreek. Tyreek needs to actually live up to what he said he was going to live up to against the Chiefs, and he needs to do it against this Raiders team. But I think that the Dolphins get this win. I think it's going to be like 28-14, favor the Dolphins.
Okay. I think that the Dolphins are a better team on paper, obviously. You see, we've talked about them extensively on the show, and we've seen how good they've looked. And if they're clicking on all cylinders, how dangerous they can be and how many points they can put up. Broncos fans still have nightmares over that.
They still scored.
What was that?
I said they just scored against the Broncos again. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. But I think the Raiders going to put up a better fight, but I just think that I think it's going to come down to quarterback play. Obviously, Tua is a better quarterback than Aiden O'Connell, who we're still trying to feel out and see just how good he can be in the league in his limited starts and limited reps. So I am going to rock, as much as it hurts me. And it always hurts us to go against our teams, but we're trying to get wins here and predictions. So I will go the Dolphins getting the win in this one, unfortunately. I'll go with the Dolphins getting 30, and I'll have the Raiders going 17 in this matchup. But like I said, I think it'll be a good game all in all, but I just think the Dolphins have better power, better, definitely a better offense. But I'm curious to see how the Raiders defense can stack up against us. It's going to be a good matchup. All right, another good matchup here. We have the Buccaneers taking on the 49ers. Jay McLovin, is there an upset in place with this one?
Yeah, when this first started out, this league first started out this year, everybody had the 49ers. I certainly had the 49ers as being the lock as the best team in the league. And since then, they had that 3-game losing streak, and then, of course, they snapped it just here recently. But still, they've been struggling for a little bit at 6-3, and the Bucs, they're kind of hovering around 4-5. But believe it or not, the Bucs, even at 4-5, are a half game back behind the Saints for their divisional. Mm-hmm. So they're not completely out of it either. I mean, they're right there in it. And the interesting thing enough is the 49ers are actually tied with Seattle for first. So this is a big game for both teams, honestly. Both teams need this win in order to advance in their division and stay in the title hunt, right? Or the playoff hunt, I should say. But golly, man, Mayfield's got 14-5, Purdy's 15-5. I mean, these guys are, believe it or not, their stats are almost mirror imaged. The main difference here stat-wise is between McCaffrey and White. Obviously, McCaffrey has a lot more yardage and a lot more touchdowns than White does. But what McCaffrey does better than White is he also can line up at the receiver side or get passes out of the backfield. So McCaffrey is still the dual threat. Juke is still Ayuk is still kind of a dual threat. So there's better weapons, I believe, on the 49ers side still. And don't forget, Chase Young now is part of this defense. So I think this Chase Young and Bosa combination could put a lot of pressure on Baker and put Baker in a lot of uncomfortable situations. So for that, I'm going to go 49ers, get the win over the Bucs, and it's going to be, 28-14. Okay. Niners.
All right, Dustin, do you have this one being a little closer, or do you think the 49ers could get the bigger win, or will the Buccaneers pull off an upset?
I think the bye week came at the perfect time for the 49ers because they were riding that 3-game losing streak. They were kind of a shell of how they started the season, and Brock Purdy kind of started to look like that human quarterback, or kind of like the lower round draft pick that a lot of people pegged him as. But they go into the bye week, come out of the bye week, and actually go into Jacksonville and completely destroy a Jacksonville Jaguar team that was playing very good. A Jacksonville Jaguar team that was right up there with Kansas City in terms of the best record in the AFC. And you could make the case now that sometimes all it takes is one win to get you back on track. And with that trade to get Chase Young on the defensive side of the ball to pair him with Bosa, I think the 49ers did get back on track last week. Buccaneers offensively, they have Mike Evans and basically nothing else on offense. So we pretty much know that the 49ers are going to do what they need to do to take Mike Evans out of the game and force the Buccaneers to beat them in other ways. I don't see that happening. Buccaneers do have a good enough defense to keep things close, but I still think San Francisco's got far too much firepower on offense. I'm going 27-14 San Francisco.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting, Jay. You mentioned how the NFC South is very much so up for grabs. It reminds me, interestingly enough, of the NFC West all those years ago, whenever Seattle won the division. I believe it was with a 7-9 record. It might be that way in the NFC South if things continue to trend how they have for all of those teams, obviously except for the Carolina Panthers. But when you look at these two teams coming into this matchup, Dustin, you hit a good point. You said that the bye week for the 49ers came at the perfect time. I agree. They were kind of flatlining at that moment. But we saw last week, whenever they beat up on the poor Jacksonville Jaguars, that they were rested. They looked good. They were coming on strong. And they proved that they were a good team. They are a solid team because the Jaguars, who've been kind of a surprise this year for a lot of people in how well they've looked. Now, as for the Buccaneers, we know, obviously, we mentioned that their record isn't the most impressive, but you're going to have a solid showing, obviously from Baker Mayfield, your star quarterback, your top guy there. He's going to have a pretty perfect game. Limit turnovers for sure. Can't be throwing interceptions. He also has to avoid the sack for the most part as well. But I think it's going to be an uphill battle, all in all, for the Buccaneers. I just think the 49ers are going to kind of start steamrolling into the second half of the season. We're getting there now. And I think that they're going to keep their momentum flowing from last week's win. So with that being said, I would go with San Francisco 49ers get the W in this one. Final score in this one, I'll have San Francisco putting up 35. And I'll have the Buccaneers going with, I'll go 20. I'll be friendly for them. And I think it'll be a good matchup. We'll see what happens this weekend. All right, coming up next, we just mentioned the AFC East. We're going to have two more teams battle out here with the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets. Jay McLovin, who is taking the win in this one?
Yeah, again, this is just another good game here, honestly, between the Jets and the Bills. You wouldn't think the Jets would still be in this thing, but they are at 4-5, and the Bills are at 5-5. I mean, honestly, this could very much go 500 for the Jets if they get the win, and then be under 500 for the Bills if they get the loss. And let's not forget, it still looks like that Aaron Rodgers could make a debut by week 12. So really all the Jets need to do is just keep themselves in a fighting position in the standings in order for them to still be competitive. So this Jets team is very much still in it. They are certainly not out of it by any means. Both teams are coming off back-to-back losses, unfortunately. And the Bills fired their offensive coordinator, who Josh Allen has come out publicly and said he is not a fan of it, that he didn't feel like it was all on the offensive coordinator, that some of it blame fell on him. So there is still some iffy turmoil over there in Bills land, and hopefully some productivity come over the Jets by the way of week 12, which we are not that far away from. I think right now we're in week 11. So if the Jets get this win and go 5-5 and they get Aaron Rodgers back, all of a sudden, hey, they're back in it, folks. They're really not that far out. Now, we know Wilson sucks. This dude got 5 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. But Josh Allen ain't that much damn better. He got 19 touchdowns, but he got 11 interceptions. So both of these guys apparently are turnover prone. It's just going to be who commits the least amount of turnovers. Breece Hall, I think, is a little bit better running back than what Dalvin Cook or what Cook has over there for them. And I will tell you, this could be Dalvin versus what's Cook's first name? I always forget that dude's name. Is it Jalen? James, yeah. So it could be Dalvin versus James show. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Dalvin goes and says, "Hey, look, man, I'm gonna kind of go up against my little brother here and see what I can do," because Dalvin is not exactly happy with his role right now with the Jets. Matter of fact, he's come out publicly and said he's not happy about it. So it could be interesting to see what happens in that position. But I'm gonna go with the upset here. For some reason, I feel like there's an upset happening, and I'm gonna go Jets over Bills. I think it's gonna be a close game, though. I think it's gonna be. I'm gonna go say I think it's gonna be 35-28 favor of the Jets.
All right. Dustin, do you see such a high-scoring game, or do you think you think it'll be a little bit lower?
Aaron Rodgers can say all he wants that he's going to play in Week 12, but he's not playing. He's not coming back this year, because if he is coming back this year, then he never fully tore that Achilles tendon, and the Jets just used it as a publicity stunt to show how bad Zach Wilson is. Because a torn Achilles tendon minimum is 8 months. There's no physical way you can come back in 6 months. Not even 6 months, 4 months. So getting that out of the way, Bills are going to roll 31-7. This change in the offensive coordinator to bring in Joe Brady is going to be a blessing in disguise, because Joe Brady was the former offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers when their offense was actually pretty good under Cam Newton and some of the quarterbacks they had back over there. Ken Dorsey really had no business being the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. The only reason why he got that job is because he was the quarterback coach under Brian Daboll when Buffalo's Bills offense was at the best. And even last year, you saw struggles from that Bills offense last year, but they were able to kind of make up for it in certain points that they're not making up for it now. And I think that just kind of came full surface as to how bad Ken Dorsey was as a play caller. At least Joe Brady knows what he's doing offensively. At least Joe Brady knows kind of how to use the weapons at his disposal, because he has experience play calling back from his days in Carolina. Buffalo is not as good as what they've been in the past, but they're also not nearly as bad as how they're playing right now. I think that was kind of the wake-up call that Buffalo needed with the firing of Ken Dorsey, and I just think they're going to win 31-7. I just don't like Zach Wilson. I don't think the Jets stand a chance, and even if Aaron Rodgers comes back, they're going to be out of the playoff picture before he even gets a chance to play, so that's why I don't see him coming back at all.
I don't think Zach Wilson likes Zach Wilson.
Yeah, it's imagine if we had to redo that 2021 draft, where you had obviously the number 2 and number 3 pick with Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, who Zach Wilson is proverbially a backup. It's just he got thrust into the starting position because of injury. And Trey Lance, Jay, isn't he on the Cowboys as like the water boy?
He's a third string. Yeah, okay, he's a third string project.
Pretty much. Well, third string and third overall, so it figures out.
Yeah.
But when I look at, I don't know. It's strange. Look, once Aaron Rodgers went down with that injury, I think the entire NFL world assumed that the Jets would be bottom barrel, fighting for the number 1 overall pick, and not nearly as good as they've been. But they've been doing it with a subpar quarterback in Zach Wilson. And, you have some good pieces, obviously. You mentioned the running back room. You've also got Garrett Wilson out there in the receiving core who's done great things. But it's really, it's the Jets defense which has been putting in work. And, if they had, Aaron Rodgers, this team would look really good like we all thought. And we see that it's not their offense per se winning these games. It's the offense doing just enough and the defense really coming to step up each and every single week so far. Then we look at the Bills. Obviously, we've mentioned they fired their offensive coordinator. And we'll see how they come out this week under a different direction. If it might be some growing pains, or if they'll take to that system super quick and just put up points in bunches against a solid defense. So it is going to be a good matchup, I think. But I don't know. I'm going to go with the slight edge to the Buffalo Bills. I think they'll be kind of fired up now that they've got some fresh ideas on offense, we'll say. and I'll go Buffalo taking the win in this one. I got being close, though. I'll go with Buffalo 24, and I'll go with the Jets 21. I think it's going to be a good game for both teams, and I'm going to be watching it on Sunday. See how it goes.
You can say that Zach Wilson is basically the Mitch Trubisky version of what the Jets did, where Mitch Trubisky had one great year in college, ended up getting the number 2 overall selection. Same thing with Zach Wilson. One great year in college.
Well said. Well said. All right, Steelers-Browns rivalry game, of course. Jay McLaughlin kicked things off. Who's taking the W in this one?
Yeah, absolutely. So Steelers versus Browns. Again, another 6-3 versus 6-3. Should be an interesting game. You know that obviously that Watson is lost for the season, so it's not going to be a great quarterback over there. You got P.J. Walker, who has 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He has 618 yards with 1 touchdown and 5 interceptions. So his turnover ratio is pretty high. Pickett ain't that much better, 6-4. I think this comes down to who runs the ball the best and who can put the most defensive pressure on the opposing quarterback. You know, you got Warren Harris combination over there versus Ford, and I think Ford is a little bit better than both of those guys. So I kind of give the tipsy over there to Ford for the running part of the game. You look at Pickens. The one thing about Kenny Pickett I hate is he does not use George Pickens for anything. Like, he barely uses this guy, which I think is a huge travesty for this team because Pickens is a hell of a good wide receiver, but he's just not utilized the way he should be. Almost like DJ Moore was over there with the Chicago Bears. So I think if they could ever figure out how to get George Pickens more involved, this Steelers team will be a lot better than that 6-3 record they're sporting. But because Cooper is actually being used a lot better than what Pickens is, I'm going to go with the Browns, surprisingly, in this. I'm going to go Browns. I think it will be kind of close, though. I think it'll be 17-13 in favor of the Browns.
All right. Dustin, are you also going to go with the upset?
I'm not going to go with the upset in this one. This season especially goes to show you just how great of a head coach Mike Tomlin is. Mm-hmm. And I know everyone's talked about it now. This is his 14th year as the Steelers head coach, and he has yet to have a losing season, which is unheard of. And this year looks like he's about to go on another season without a losing season. And to do that without Ben Roethlisberger as your quarterback now, to do that with guys like Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, and some of the quarterbacks that he's had to use in the past, that just goes to show you how great of a head coach he is. If Deshaun Watson did not get hurt last week, you had to start putting the Cleveland Browns in the talks of some of the AFC favorites just because, statistically speaking, Cleveland has the best defense in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Offensively, they're kind of middle of the pack offensively, but we all know come playoff time that defense travels, and the Cleveland's Brown defense can travel. And then you have to throw into the equation that if Nick Chubb didn't get hurt, how good could this Cleveland team have been if Nick Chubb was healthy and Deshaun Watson was both healthy? When it comes to the Steelers, their defense is terrible in terms of giving up yardage. I think they're 28th or 29th in yards allowed. But one thing they do is when you get in that red zone, they don't give up touchdowns. They give up field goals. And that's kind of that classic bend but not break style of defense that Mike Tomlin has played. But they still can get after the quarterback. And T.J. Watt is going to get after P.J. Walker because P.J. Walker is not Deshaun Watson. He can scramble a little bit, but when it comes to passing, he's not the same type of a quarterback Deshaun Watson's going to be. I kind of feel bad for Cleveland because I think Cleveland had a shot to win the AFC North this year if Deshaun Watson did not get hurt. But now that Watson's out, I think their playoff chances are going to dwindle. I think they'll still be in the running for a playoff spot all the way through December, but I don't think they get there. But I like Pittsburgh in this one. I think it's going to be one of those slobber knocker AFC North type of games. I'm going to go Pittsburgh 17-16.
Okay, well said. Yeah, the injury to Deshaun Watson obviously put just an even darker cloud over what Cleveland has felt this year. Obviously, with Nick Chubb going down early in the season, I just saw he had, I believe, his second surgery the other day, and now with Deshaun, who that contract ain't looking so hot after 2 seasons he's played in 12 games combined, and he never looked super great this year. He had a few good moments, don't get it twisted, but he was never like, okay, he's worth all this money. And that's a shame. because like you mentioned, Dustin, this team has a phenomenal defense. They are great, but I don't think we're going to live up. We're going to see the full potential for this Cleveland team, at least this season. And so I think coming into this one, I'll go Pittsburgh get the W. Somehow they just always manage to win. So I'll go Pittsburgh get the W in this one. I'll go 24 to 14. Final score in that one. All right, and the final game we're going to be covering here, the Monday night game. It's going to be obviously a rematch of the Super Bowl, Eagles and the Chiefs. Jay McLevin, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, this is definitely a battle of two Titan teams, the Eagles versus the Chiefs. Right now, the Eagles are looking like the best team in the league currently, especially with their record at 8-1. Kelsey versus Kelsey, rematch, Super Bowl 2.0. I mean, it should be a lot in this game, honestly, a lot of hype in this game. Hurts and Mahomes, they're very statistically almost the same. The only difference is that Mahomes has 2 more touchdowns, but they got the same amount of interceptions at 8. You look at Swift versus Pacheco. I think Swift is a little bit better than Pacheco is, but Pacheco's got 525 and 3 touchdowns. I think Swift is at 614 and 3 touchdowns. So a little bit almost the same there. And then you look at Brown versus Kelsey. I always say, and I've said this before, I know Dustin doesn't like to hear it, but when Kelsey's your number 1 wide receiver, and then you got guys like Kadarius Toney, McCole Hardman, and such, Sky Moore, these guys are just a bunch of average receivers with a superstar in Travis Kelce. So your tight end, even though he can line up as a wide receiver, is ultimately your best receiver. And even he can't even scratch what A.J. Brown is doing this year at 1,005 and 6 versus Kelsey's 597 and 4. So if you get a helping dose of Brown, Goddard, and Smith, along with the running game of Swift, I'm going to go Eagles in this one, and I think the Eagles get it at 35-21 over the Chiefs.
All right, Dustin?
Well, this could also be a Super Bowl preview and a Super Bowl rematch, just because right now you have Philadelphia, who continues to kind of dominate the NFC, be the top seed in the NFC and the Chiefs, top seed in the AFC. But the scary thing about the Chiefs at this point is I don't think any of us are going to deny that this is a down year for Kansas City. It's a down year offensively. It's a down year in terms of what we're accustomed to seeing from this Kansas City offense. And yet they're 7-2 because for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' tenure, Kansas City has a top 5 defense. That is something that he has never had since becoming a quarterback in the NFL, and Steve Spagnuolo has done a hell of a job with that defense. That bye week came at the perfect time for Kansas City. They came off a nice win against the Dolphins in Germany. They got back to Kansas City to get healthy. McCole Hardman now has that extra week to get reacclimated with that offense, who he played a very big role in his first 4 years in the NFL. Guys like Kadarius Toney were banged up. Rashee Rice was banged up. All these guys that were banged up are now getting healthy.
Yep.
And if this offense gets close, I don't think they're going to be nearly as good as what they were the last couple of years just because they're missing too many pieces. But if this offense gets close and is more consistent than what we've seen these first 9 games, as long as their defense keeps playing it the way they have, Kansas City is going to be the team to beat in the NFL again because of Patrick Mahomes and that defense. So I'm going to go Kansas City 28 and Philadelphia 24.
All right, Jay, super quick. You had something you want to get off your chest. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations to my buddy Joe Stevens. His daughter, Alan Stevens, plays for the University of Tulsa, and she shot a 204 at the Southwest Airlines Showcase Tournament, took first place, took the win, took the W, and she shot a round of 70, 67, and 67. And I'll tell you, Joe, man, she's an up-and-coming girl. I think she's going to do well in the LPGA when she gets to that level.
Yep. Best of luck to her. Great job. My final thoughts, give me the Chiefs take and win this one. I'll go Chiefs 28. I'll go Eagles. I'll go 21. Close game of this one. Hey, like I said, that has been our NFL previews for this week. Jay McLevin, Dustin Reese, appreciate you as always. I've been your host, Logan Lander. We'll talk to you again on another live episode. We'll see you soon.